Autumn's begun. The leaves have started to turn brown on the trees. They've started to fall off and drop all over the place. More importantly than that, it's Recovery Awareness Month. So I thought I'd share a little bit about my recovery journey from when I went into Detox to where I'm sat right now. I went to Detox at a place called Rainford Hall in St Helens in Liverpool. I was on a lot of heroin, I was on a lot of crack cocaine. I was working as a runner for a County Lines gang. We were selling heroin and crack on the streets of Loughborough to anyone that had enough money to pay for it. We didn't care who it was. As long as I earned the money to pay for my own drugs, I was what I thought a happy man. There's a lot of knife crime and a lot of drug crime involved with County Lines gangs. And I've forgotten the amount of time I had a knife put to my throat. I got stabbed in the arm. I've been shot at. I've had guns pointed at the back of my head on numerous occasions. But I'm here to tell the tale, and that's what I intend to do. So as I say, the 1st of December 2023, first day of my new life, the first day of Advent. Advent coming from the Latin adventus, to come, things to come, what is new with your new life. Now, I was put on 12 mil of Espinol when I got to that facility. I'd never been on Espinol before, or Subutex is the old name for it, and I didn't want to get hooked on it because I'd been into prison before and they put me on a methadone program, and all I'd done was come out of prison hooked on methadone and heroin and crack. So I said to them, they said to me in fact, Chris, you can take 4.5 weeks to come off this stuff and we'll gradually wean you off it and you'll be okay. I said, nah, I'll come off that stuff in 10 days. I want to drop 2 mil every day from today. I think it was 12 days altogether actually. Now, they said that's an incredibly dangerous thing to do. You can't do that, that's gonna hurt. I said, I don't care, I'm not getting hooked on it. So in my mind, I figured while the heroin was lowering in my body and I was detoxing from that, I could come down on the Espinol as well and I'd jump off at the end and I'd be okay and I could move on with my life. That wasn't the case. I felt okay until my last 2 mils one morning. And then the next morning, I didn't have any tablets. I didn't have anywhere to turn. My prescription had ended, so there was no going back. And I started to feel very, very sick. I started to feel very unwell in the head. I was craving drugs. I was craving something to change my mind back to the way of what I was used to for the last, God knows how many years, nearly a decade. I ended up not sleeping for 3 nights in a row. I ended up hallucinating so badly. I was talking to people that weren't there. There was literally, I could see these people. The staff would come up behind me and say, Chris, who are you talking to? I said, your man right there. They said, well, we've been watching you for 15 minutes on the camera. There's nobody there the whole time you've been talking away. Literally having conversations with myself back and forth to imaginary people. I walked into doors that were shut that I thought was open. I walked into walls where I thought there was doorways. I even got lost on a straight corridor where my bedroom was. I got lost for half an hour in a straight line. I fell down the stairs because I woke up halfway through out of like a dream state. But I never went anywhere. I stayed there and I pushed through. No matter how bad it felt and how bad the hallucinations got and how bad the rattle had become for me, I knew I was in too deep and I couldn't turn back. I wasn't going to waste the last few days or the last week that I'd already spent doing this just for another couple of days worth of pain. And I went through that pain and I felt that pain. And I'm so grateful that I did, because something changed in my brain. The chemical imbalance was reset or renewed. And since I came off that Subutex, I've never ever had a craving since then. That's 21 months and a couple of days ago. I've never had a craving. And I am so grateful for that. I was worried for the first 6 months of my recovery that a craving might come and I wouldn't know how to deal with it. So I had loads of plans in place. What if a craving comes? I'll call my counsellor, I'll talk to a friend. After being in the detox facility for 5 weeks, I went to a rehabilitation centre for 24 weeks. And there was actually an optional extra 24 weeks after that programme in a separate house on the same site as like a move-on facility that they offered, and I took that as well. When I went to Yeldall Manor, I'd already got a good grasp of what recovery was all about. I'd learned as much as I could in Rainford Hall. I studied, I went to every single group that I was capable of going to, I interacted. I spoke to my counsellor, I spoke to my psychotherapist, I got it all off my chest. Everything that I did in my past, everything I could think of to talk about, I spoke about, and they were great at getting it out of me and talking me through how to move forward. And I listened and I learned and I studied as much as I could. So when I went into Yeldall Manor, it took me a few weeks to settle in, to get to know the lads. There was probably 15 people on the program at that time, all men. The staff were a mixture of people in recovery, good people that wanted to help, and counsellors, etc. And that place became my home for the next sort of 48 weeks. And I will always cherish Yeldall Manor as a huge part of my journey, because I'd learned how to do recovery in a detox centre, but I needed the time to practice it for the next 48 weeks. And then they helped me along the way with that. They gave me the time. We had the groups, we had peer-led groups, we had counsellor-led groups, we had facilitated groups, facilitated activities that we could get on with. And we built a community, or I was involved in a community and brought into the community of Yeldall Manor that was ever evolving, because people were leaving, some people were coming in, and you work your way through the program. Now, I became a senior peer very quickly. Within the first sort of 2 to 3 months, people were referring to me as a senior peer, and that was a bit of an accolade that I wasn't too sure about, because people started coming to me for advice. People started coming to me, Chris, what do I do in this situation? How do I do this? How do I do that? But that made me more aware of my own recovery. That made me more aware of my own actions and how I conducted myself around people, in groups, what I said and what I did, which was great for me. And it was great to help other people with what I'd learned and help people that were new into recovery, help them through the early days of their journeys. As I progressed, I completed the program in June 2024, and I moved to the Lodge building, which is the Move On house, and I set about making a plan for what I wanted to do with my life. And I decided I wanted to help people and potentially become a charity ambassador. Now, I was told that would take me 5 years. Within my first year of recovery, I was offered an ambassadorship program with the Forward Trust, who I still work with now as a volunteer. I go into prisons, I give talks on the drug wings, I help people out of the cycles of crime, drugs and addiction that I used to be in myself. People that are involved in gangs, gun crime, knife crime, anything I've got experience in, I'll go and I'll give a talk to the people that are stuck in the same situation I used to be, to show them that I've managed to move forward and I've managed to move away from that. And I'm able to sit here and talk about it now quite openly, because I've done it, I've settled it with myself, I've forgiven myself. The most important thing I had to do in recovery was forgive myself for my past actions. A lot of people say, oh, you don't know what it was like for me, I'd done this, I'd done that, this was done to me, that was done to me. That's in the past. We can't change the past, like we can't predict the future. All I have is right here, right now, while I'm talking to you guys. All I have is this present moment, because I don't know what's going to happen next. If I dwell in the past and don't forgive myself for my previous actions, I'll stay the same person I was in the past. If I can't move forward, I can't grow. I can't grow as an individual, I can't grow as a person, a part of a community and a part of a lovely family and friendship circle. And if I can't do any of that, I'm back on the streets using drugs and committing crime again. So forgiveness, self-forgiveness was key to my recovery. So I've done the charity ambassadorship and I'm still doing that now. I managed to get my own little flat. It's a private rented place, I don't own it. When I came out of rehab, there was nowhere for me to go. So essentially I was homeless again after a year in recovery. So I left the rehab on the 12th of December 2024 and I went into an Airbnb for 5 weeks. And it was great for me. It was a great transitional period to do that while I was trying to find this private property. I eventually moved into there in January, like late January 2025. And I still live there now. I've made it, I was completely empty, it didn't come with anything. It was all freshly decorated, new kitchen and bathroom, etc. because there'd been a fire in there previous, so I had to wait a few weeks while it was finished until I could move in. But I've made that my home. You know, I get up in the morning now. I have, I would say, a strict morning routine, but I get up at 6 o'clock every day. I have a cup of coffee, I write a gratitude list, a 10-point gratitude list, and I also write 5 things I'm glad I no longer have to do. because I do not want to forget where I came from. If I start forgetting where I came from and how bad that life was, I might start slipping back into it. And I can't afford for that to happen, because I don't want to become that person again. I want to become the real me. And I've found out who the real me is, behind all the masks, behind all the violence, the crime, the prison, the homelessness, the desperation and the fear. I now know who I am, and I like who I am. I try and help people whenever I can. I try and spread the message of recovery throughout social media, on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and I just try and do my little bit to make this world a better place. If everyone in the world got up and done something nice for somebody else, just for one day, the whole world would change. And that's what we're trying to do. Change the world, just one small moment at a time. Thank you for watching, guys. Check out my DVLA fraud video, and if you don't already follow me on Facebook.